I hope your quarterly savings were worth it, I whispered, watching the caution tape flutter outside the scorched frame of what used to be a spotless logistics hub. The fire was preventable. The injuries were preventable. But so was firing me, the one person who made sure disaster never had a keycard. I didn't set the fire. But I definitely made sure the water was locked behind a compliance clause. This story isn't about revenge. It's about an insurance contract, a forgotten signature, and a CEO who thought saving a few dollars meant immunity from consequences. My name is Lauren Hayes. For 12 years, I've been the risk management specialist at North Shore Fulfillment, headquartered in Desmond, Illinois. 12 years of meticulous documentation, of walking the warehouse floor at 5 a.m. before anyone else arrived, checking sprinkler pressure and emergency exit pathways. 12 years of being called paranoid, overcautious, and my personal favorite, profit impairment officer. The employees called me the human firewall. Management called me necessary overhead. I didn't care what they called me as long as everyone went home alive at the end of their shift. In my office, there's a burn mark on the wall from 4 years ago. A faulty wire in the eastern storage section had sparked during inventory count. I'd been the one to grab the extinguisher, to evacuate the temp workers who didn't even know where the emergency exits were. The burn mark stayed. My personal reminder that this job wasn't about paperwork. It was about keeping people breathing. That scar on the wall outlasted 3 facility directors, 2 operations managers, and 1 CEO. It wouldn't survive the next. Blair Kingsley arrived on a Tuesday, wearing stilettos that had never touched concrete and a smile that had never seen failure. She'd been plucked from the tech startup world, where disruption was currency and human elements were variables to optimize. Her first company-wide email included the words synergy 4 times, optimization 7 times, and safety exactly 0. I'd seen her type before. MBAs who thought a supply chain was something you could fix with an algorithm, who viewed our 82-acre facility with 347 employees as lines on a spreadsheet, who didn't understand that logistics isn't just about moving products, it's about moving people who move products. Our first meeting was brief. She wanted me to summarize my department's function in 20 seconds or less, from an investor perspective. I only needed 5. I keep your people alive. She'd looked at me like I'd spoken Aramaic, then nodded politely before checking her watch. Well, we'll need to quantify that value proposition during our operational review next week. I knew then we were going to have problems. The cuts began subtly. First, it was postponing the quarterly fire safety inspection. Just until after the shareholders' meeting, Blair had said, as if fire respected corporate calendars. Then came the streamlining of evacuation drills. Instead of actual drills, we'd distribute diagrams. Because apparently, in Blair's world, people read evacuation maps while choking on smoke. Week 3, maintenance freeze on non-essential equipment. The definition of non-essential expanded daily. The forklift with the sticky brake? Just be careful with it. The backup generator that hadn't been tested in 8 months? A redundancy we rarely need. By month 2, she'd pulled 2 of my safety officers to work inventory. Temporary resource reallocation, she called it. My team of 5 was now 3, responsible for a facility the size of 18 football fields. I documented everything, every email, every refused request, every violation of OSHA regulations. I kept copies at home, encrypted on my personal drive. Not because I was planning anything, but because 12 years of risk management teaches you to prepare for worst-case scenarios. The worst case walked in wearing designer heels and carrying a leather portfolio on a Thursday afternoon. Lauren, I appreciate your dedication. Blair began, settling into the chair across from my desk. Her voice had that artificial warmth people use when they're about to stab you. But I've been analyzing our organizational structure, and I've identified some redundancies. I said nothing. 12 years had taught me the value of silence. Your risk management protocols, while thorough, are simply too expansive for our lean operational model. We need agility, flexibility, Your systems are, how do I put this delicately, obstacles to our velocity. My systems prevent people from dying, I replied evenly. She smiled, the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. That's exactly the hyperbole I'm talking about. Lauren, we're a fulfillment center, not a coal mine. The occasional sprained ankle isn't worth the operational drag your department creates. I pointed to the burn mark on my wall. 4 years ago, that could have been a body bag. And 4 years ago, our quarterly profits were 17% lower than they are now. She leaned forward. Times change, Lauren. Either we change with them, or we get left behind. I knew what was coming next. We're eliminating your position, effective immediately. There it was. 12 years reduced to a 30-minute severance meeting. Your team will report to operations now. We'll maintain all the essential safety protocols, of course. She slid a manila folder across my desk. Your severance package is quite generous. 6 weeks' pay, continued health benefits through the end of the month. I took the folder without opening it. Who's going to sign off on insurance compliance? She waved dismissively. Oh, Roger and legal will handle that transitionally. Eventually, we'll distribute those responsibilities across departments for better integration. Roger and legal. Who couldn't tell a fire extinguisher from a fire hydrant? Perfect. You'll need to clear out today. HR will escort you to collect your things. She stood, smoothing her skirt. I truly wish you the best, Lauren. Your attention to detail would be quite valuable in the right environment. As she turned to leave, I reached into my drawer and removed a copy of our insurance policy, specifically, the rider I'd helped draft during our last renewal. Don't forget this. You'll need it. She took it absently. Thank you for your professionalism. Page 22, Section G, I said quietly. It requires my signature as Risk Management Officer for any claim processing. She paused, then forced another smile. I'm sure legal will sort all that out during the transition. I'm sure they will, I agreed, placing a yellow sticky note on the document's cover. Signature required, page 22, Section G. After she left, I packed my office in silence. The burn mark on the wall seemed to darken as I removed my certifications and safety awards. I left my keys and badge with HR, walked through the warehouse one last time, and stepped into the parking lot without looking back. I didn't set the timer on the bomb. I just made sure no one could defuse it when it started ticking. 3 weeks passed. I spent them updating my resume, taking long walks, and waiting. In risk management, patience isn't just a virtue. It's a professional requirement. The call came on a Wednesday morning. Lauren, it's Mark Jenner from Arlington and Rowe Insurance. The voice was professional, but tense. Do you have a minute to discuss North Shore Fulfillment? I don't work there anymore, I replied. Yes, we're aware of that. That's actually why I'm calling. There's been an incident at their new South Haven facility. I sat down slowly. What kind of incident? A pressure vessel failure, 4 injuries, 1 serious. They filed a claim under their liability policy. But there's a complication. I closed my eyes. Section G. Exactly. The policy requires your signature as Risk Management Officer for claim validation. We can't process anything without it. I was terminated 3 weeks ago. Yes, but the policy wasn't updated to reflect that change. Legally, we need either your signature or a formal policy amendment, which would take effect for future claims only. I let the silence stretch before asking, what do you need from me? We'd like to meet, tomorrow, if possible. Our office is downtown. I agreed, hung up, and stared at the wall of my apartment. In risk management, we talk about predictable disasters. Catastrophes that aren't random, but the natural culmination of cascading failures. What had happened at South Haven wasn't an accident. It was mathematics. Arlington and Rowe occupied 3 floors of a glass tower on Michigan Avenue. Mark Jenner met me in a conference room with views of the lake. He was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with the careful manner of someone who reads fine print for a living. Thank you for coming, Ms. Hayes. He gestured to the chair across from him. This is an unusual situation. Not really, I replied, sitting down. It's actually a textbook case of predictable system failure following safety protocol abandonment. He blinked, then smiled slightly. I see why you were in risk management. A folder lay between us. He opened it, revealing photographs of the South Haven facility, specifically a blackened section of wall where a compressed air tank had ruptured. I recognized the model immediately. We had the same ones in Desmond. The pressure relief valve failed, I said, studying the image. These need quarterly inspection. It's in the manufacturer's guidelines. Yes, that's what our investigator concluded as well. He slid another document forward, a maintenance log with conspicuous gaps. No inspections for the past 4 months. Since they opened the facility? Correct. He leaned back. North Shore has submitted a claim for $3.7 million in damages and liability. Under normal circumstances, we'd process it routinely. But Section G of their policy requires your signature as verification that all safety protocols were being followed appropriately. They weren't. No. He agreed. They weren't. Which puts us all in a difficult position. If you sign, you're essentially certifying compliance that didn't exist. If you don't sign, they don't get paid. And 4 injured employees may have a harder time receiving compensation. He studied me. Though I should note that their medical costs are covered under a separate workers' compensation policy. This claim is primarily for facility damage and business interruption. I nodded slowly. So you're asking if I'll sign? I'm asking what you intend to do. I thought about the burn mark on my office wall, about 12 years of fighting for safety measures that were now being dismantled, about Blair Kingsley's dismissive wave when I mentioned insurance compliance. I need to see the complete investigation report, I said, and I'd like copies of all maintenance records from both facilities for the past 3 months. Mark raised an eyebrow. May I ask why? Because I'm going to make an informed decision. That's what risk managers do. The evidence was worse than I'd imagined. Not just the pressure vessel that had exploded, but systematic neglect across both facilities. Emergency exits blocked by inventory. Fire suppression systems disabled during maintenance that never happened. Safety training reduced to unwatched videos. It had taken Blair Kingsley less than 2 months to unravel 12 years of safety culture. The most damning evidence came from my former team. Emails begging for resources. Incident reports filed and ignored. Warnings that went unheeded. In one particularly chilling exchange, my former deputy had explicitly warned about the pressure vessels at South Haven. Blair's response, "Let's circle back to this in Q3 planning." That email was dated 2 days before the explosion. I compiled everything into a single document, complete with timestamps and verification. Then I called Mark Jenner. "I've made my decision," I told him. "I won't be signing the claim verification." He was silent for a moment. "I understand. May I ask if you plan to take any further action?" "You may not," I replied, then paused. "But if I were you, I'd prepare for some media attention." The Desmond Chronicle wasn't exactly the New York Times, but it had one advantage: Jessica Winters, an investigative reporter who'd covered industrial accidents for 20 years and had no patience for corporate bullshit. We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the North Shore facility. I brought my laptop and the file I'd compiled. "So you're claiming North Shore deliberately ignored safety protocols that could have prevented this accident?" she asked after reviewing the documents. "I'm not claiming anything. The evidence speaks for itself." I pointed to the maintenance logs. "These gaps aren't oversights. They're policy. And you have documentation to prove that?" I showed her the emails, the meeting minutes, the budget cuts specifically targeting safety measures. Jessica whistled softly. "This is a textbook case of corporate negligence. But why are you bringing this to me now? Why not when they first started cutting corners?" "Because now I have proof of harm. Before, it was just potential risk." She nodded, understanding the distinction. "And the insurance angle, that's unusual." It was a safeguard I built into the policy renewal last year, a way to ensure safety protocols couldn't be abandoned without consequences. Smart. She closed her notebook. I'll need to contact North Shore for comment before we publish. They'll know it came from you. I'm counting on it. The story broke on a Monday. Whistleblower claims fulfillment. Giant ignored safety warnings before explosion. By Tuesday, it had been picked up by 3 national outlets. By Wednesday, OSHA had announced an investigation. I received 2 calls that week. The first was from Blair Kingsley. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Her voice had lost all its artificial warmth. "Exactly what I've always done," I replied calmly, "mitigating risk and ensuring accountability. This is a deliberate attempt to damage the company. We'll sue you for every penny you have. For telling the truth with documented evidence, good luck with that." "You planted that insurance clause deliberately," she hissed. "That's corporate sabotage." "No, it's risk management. I identified a potential vulnerability, a company prioritizing profit over safety. And I created a control mechanism. That's literally my job description." "Was your job description," she corrected. "You're just bitter about being let go." "I'm concerned about injured workers and a company culture that sees safety as an impediment to profit. But believe whatever helps you sleep at night." "Blair?" She was silent for a moment. "What do you want?" "Excuse me?" "To make this go away." "What do you want?" "Money?" "Your job back?" "Name it." I almost laughed. "I don't want anything from you, Blair. This isn't a negotiation or a shakedown. It's accountability." The second call came from North Shore's board chairman, Howard Lassiter. "Ms. Hayes, I'd like to request your presence at an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. As you can imagine, we have some concerns about recent developments." "I'm no longer an employee, Mr. Lassiter. I'm not obligated to attend your meetings. We're prepared to compensate you for your time as a consultant. And to be frank, it would be in your best interest to hear what we have to say." I thought about it for a moment. "What time?" The boardroom at North Shore's Chicago headquarters was all mahogany and muted lighting, designed to make important people feel more important. 14 pairs of eyes tracked me as I entered, 13 board members and Blair Kingsley, whose expression could have curdled milk. Howard Lassiter, a silver-haired man with the permanent tan of someone who wintered in Palm Springs, gestured to an empty chair. "Ms. Hayes, thank you for joining us." I sat without a word. "We've asked you here today to discuss the situation at South Haven and the subsequent publicity. Obviously, this is a difficult time for North Shore." 4 people were injured," I said. "I imagine it's a difficult time for them as well." Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Blair's jaw tightened. "Indeed." Lassiter continued smoothly. "Their well-being is our primary concern. Which brings us to the insurance claim. Let me guess, Arlington and Rowe won't process it without my signature." "That's correct. And while we could challenge this in court, that would delay compensation and recovery. We'd prefer a more amicable resolution." I glanced at Blair, who was staring at the table. "What kind of resolution?" Lassiter cleared his throat. "We're prepared to acknowledge that certain operational changes may have been implemented too hastily. And we're willing to reinstate you as risk management officer with an expanded budget and direct reporting line to the board. Under the same CEO who dismantled every safety protocol I built, who pulled my staff for inventory counts and called safety measures operational drag." Blair's head snapped up. "That's not—" "We're reviewing all executive decisions." Lassiter interrupted. "Nothing is off the table." I opened my bag and removed the insurance policy, turning to page 22. I slid it across the table. "Before we discuss my potential return, I'd like to clarify something. This clause doesn't just require my signature for claim processing. It requires my certification that all safety protocols were being followed appropriately at the time of the incident." The room went very quiet. "Were they being followed, Ms. Kingsley?" I asked, looking directly at her. She flushed. We maintained all essential safety measures. That's not what the maintenance logs show, or the emails from my former team warning specifically about the pressure vessels, or the budget reallocations that cut inspection frequencies in half. Lassiter frowned. Ms. Kingsley, is this accurate? We were optimizing processes, she said stiffly. Every operational change was designed to improve efficiency without compromising essential functions. 4 people were injured, I repeated. 1 with third-degree burns. I'd say that's a pretty significant compromise. This is absurd, Blair snapped. We're offering you your job back with more authority, and you're still playing the martyr. I stood slowly. I'm not here for a job offer. I'm here to make something very clear. I will not sign that certification. Not now, not ever. Because it would be a lie, and it would make me complicit in what happened. Then why are you here? Lassiter asked. To witness this, I replied, nodding toward the door. It opened to reveal Jessica Winters and a photographer from the Chronicle. The board invited press to this meeting, I explained to Lassiter's stunned expression, for transparency about how North Shore is addressing the accident and supporting the injured workers. I did no such thing, Lassiter sputtered. Strange. They received an official invitation. I shrugged. Must have been a miscommunication. Jessica stepped forward. Mr. Lassiter, would you care to comment on the OSHA investigation announced yesterday? Or on reports that North Shore systematically reduced safety measures to cut costs? The boardroom erupted in chaos. Board members whispered urgently to each other. Lassiter tried to regain control while simultaneously signaling to his assistant to remove the press. Blair Kingsley sat frozen, her face a mask of fury and fear. In the confusion, I slipped the insurance policy back into my bag and walked to the door. As I passed Blair, I leaned down and whispered, I hope your quarterly savings were worth it. The aftermath unfolded over weeks. OSHA's investigation resulted in fines totaling $870,000 for willful and repeated safety violations. Arlington and Rowe denied the insurance claim based on non-compliance with safety requirements. North Shore's stock dropped 17%. Blair Kingsley resigned to pursue other opportunities. 3 board members followed. Howard Lassiter issued a public apology and announced a comprehensive safety overhaul, returning to the gold standards previously established. I watched it all from a distance. I'd accepted a position as Director of Risk Management at Halberd Express, North Shore's largest competitor. My first act was to review their insurance policies and safety protocols. My new office has no burn marks on the walls. Not yet. But I keep a framed news clipping on my desk. The Chronicle's coverage of the South Haven accident. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder that in risk management, warnings ignored become consequences manifested. This story was never about revenge. It was about accountability. About systems that protect people even when profit motives don't. About how safety isn't just a department or a budget line. It's a culture that has to be built and defended every day. I didn't set any fires. I just made sure there were consequences when the wrong things burned.